Okay, let's start. 15 participants. Still log in. Join. Anyway, let's start. Here I have a problem that will uh, eventually lead us to the concept of the perpendicular bisector. But this can be solved in another way, which makes use of a concept we've already learned in the course. That is the distance formula. So let's start by drawing a figure for the problem. Let's read the problem first. Find the equation of the line satisfying the following condition. If P is any point on the line, then the distance from P to -1, -2 is the same as the distance from P to 3, 6. Let's draw the figure. So say this is -1, -2. Then northeast, no? 3, 6. Dito siya, sa tingnan natin. We want to find a point, or actually the set of all points with the following property. If this point is on that set of points, then the distance of this point from either point is the same. Kapag kinompute mo yung distance niya from this point and from this point, equal. And the point is not unique. There are other points that satisfy the given condition. And we want to know how those points collectively look like. What kind of graph will they form? And it turns out these points actually just form a line. Then later on, we'll see some spatial kind of line that is actually what they call, how do you call this? A line that actually can be used to solve such types of problems. Okay, so that you don't have to resort to an algebraic method to solve these types of problems. But first, let's do this the crude way, the brute force way, where you use algebra, never mind the geometric interpretation and concepts that are involved in this problem. Let's just look at this as plainly an algebraic problem. How? We start by denoting the point P by unknowns, as we always do in algebra. So denote by P the coordinates of the point by xy. X and y are unknowns. Then we try to formulate equations that will help us solve the problem. We are told that the distance from P to either point is the same. So let's label or give the coordinates of the points. 3, 6. Denote that by B, and by A, the point -1, -2. I hope you can hear me loudly, aloud, clearly. Ito, no? So, -1, -2, unahin natin nun. Let's compute the length of AP. Denoted by this. This means the line segment AP. And if we put the absolute value symbol, we mean, or we refer to the length of that line segment. Distance formula will give us Remember, sum of the squares of the differences of the corresponding coordinates. So x minus -1 squared, then y minus -2 squared, square root. That's 80. Then we do the same for BP or PB. Either naming is acceptable. Square root of x minus 3 squared plus y minus 6 squared. And the problem says that they are the same. All we have to do is equate the two. 80 equals PB or BP. And to, okay, let me write it first. It's a square ko na agad. No? Pero actually, pwede nating tanggalin na lang agad yung radical, di ba? Para mag-equate na lang diretsuhan yung dalawa. But here we have the square root of x plus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals the square root of x minus 3 squared plus y minus 6 squared. So this is the equation that we can squeeze out of the problem here using the distance formula. And we don't want an equation like this to represent the set of all points satisfying that given condition. So what we do is try to simplify the equation so that it looks, siyempre, much simpler and if possible, linear or quadratic. You would think that pwedeng maging quadratic pa, di ba? Kasi merong presence ng squares. Pero mamaya makikita natin, ay linear lang pala ito. So line lang pala yun. So let's see. Let's square both sides. Tanggalin ko na si square root. Ayan na siya. And then things can be cancelled out. Expansion gives following. And then we can cancel out like terms. And then I will be combining like terms, so transposing negative 6x. I have 8x. 1 plus 4 is 5. 9 plus 36 is 45. Then meron tayong 4y. Negative 12y lipat, magiging positive 12y, so magiging 16y to. Just verify. Then the 5 transpose, 4. In other words, after you have manipulated the equation there, you will eventually just get a linear one, which can further be simplified. Just verify na lang later yung calculation na kung di agad nakasunod. So nag-cancel lang tayo, nag-combine, nag-transpose. So we have this, and then we divide by 8. We have a simple looking one like this. X plus 2y equals 5, or if we wish, we can write this in slope-intercept form. We will get 2y equals negative x plus 5. So ang slope-intercept form niya, y equals negative 1/2 x plus 5. So isulat ko lang muna ulit yung final answer. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 5 over. So it's a line. Its slope negative 1/2, y-intercept 5 over 2. Now, we will do this in another way, and that is by using the concept of the perpendicular bisector. If you recall, the perpendicular bisector of a line segment satisfies the following. If you have a line segment AB, then the perpendicular bisector bisects the line segment. So it will pass through the midpoint, diba? Maba, it will pass through the midpoint. Ito itong screen ng laptop ko. Right. So it bisects the line segment, so it will pass through the midpoint of the line segment. Okay, L is the line perpendicular to line segment AB at its midpoint. And then it's perpendicular to the line segment at that point. Ito siya. Yan yung perpendicular bisector. Now, the good thing here is that the perpendicular bisector has all its points equidistant from either endpoint. Bakit? Because of congruent triangles, if we draw, halimbawa, take any point on the perpendicular bisector, it will be at the same distance from either A or B. Tingnan nyo. Halimbawa ito. And then A, then B. Same length, yung dalawang yan, because of congruent triangles, di ba? Same side. Tapos bisected to, so equal din yan. Tapos pareho pa silang right triangle. So by Pythagorean, or congruence na lang ng triangle, equal din yan. And that's true for any other point on the perpendicular bisector. Kahit dito mo kunin, equidistant pa rin. Yung midpoint, equidistant din yung midpoint, diba? Anything, anywhere. As long as it's on the perpendicular bisector. So we will try to solve the same problem in another way using the perpendicular bisector of AB, this line. So that's AB. This is what we got from solution 1, group 4, algebra, distance formula. Now we will get the perpendicular bisector of this. And we have already learned how to get the slopes of lines that are perpendicular to each other and also how to get the midpoint. So let's start by finding the midpoint of the line segment AB. So ano nga yung midpoint formula? Diba? We average the coordinates, divide by 2, add, divide by 2. So we have -1 plus 3. Divided by 2, and then -2 plus 6 divided by 2. We get the midpoint as 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2. And that's the point. That's a point on the perpendicular bisector, yung line L. Okay? It's both on the line segment AB and the perpendicular bisector L. So ang kailangan na lang natin yung slope ng perpendicular bisector L. At paano natin kukunin niya? How do we get the slope of the perpendicular? Anyone here? Kunin muna natin yung slope nino. Ng ano? AB. Okay, thank you Mr. Binwag. AB, tama? Hindi natin makukuha si L agad, pero alam natin perpendicular siya kay AB. Eh yung coordinates ni AB given. So mako-compute natin yung slope ni AB. So slope formula, change in y over change in x. Okay, 6 minus -2, 3 minus -1. Ano yan? 8/4. Sakto, no? Negative reciprocal. So therefore, the slope of the perpendicular is -1/2. Kailangan na lang nating ma-verify to, no? And we proceed to the point slope form because we have a point on the line, point slope form. So we have a point and we have a slope. So yung x1, y1. Use the point slope formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus 2 equals -1/2 x minus 1. Let's check kung magpapareho. +1/2 na yan, then transpose natin si -2, pareho. Which method do you prefer? Or do you like better? Kung ayaw mo ng analysis, method 1. Kung gusto mo ng analysis, the more elegant solution actually is the second one. Which makes use of geometric concepts. Okay, practice on finding the perpendicular bisector. So, no, solve this problem. Anyone give me the coordinates of the midpoint? Midpoint 5, -5, correct. Slope of AB, AB muna. Tama, -15/2. Yan ang pangalawa. So may points yan. Siyempre, pakita mo yung solution, no? May points to. Midterms kasi, show your solution eh. And then, of course, kailangan pakita mo rin. Yan, 1, 2, 3. 15 points yan. Usually, nahati ko equally no, sa mga important steps ng solution. And then, points law form. So, 5. Then, kung walang required na form, yan na yan. You get full credit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe for the figure. But kung required, siyempre, hindi pa full yan. Credit. Okay? So, perhaps 3 points each. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hindi naman ako nagbibigay ng 0 kung kahit papaano may input, kung may figure man lang, is 1 point. Okay, next problem. Practice. If you're looking at the chat box, sometimes I discuss textually. Your tutorial sessions, your text, please. Please look the chat box. I'm discussing something there. May mga tanong ako doon. So, tama. Slope of L1 is -2. So, what's the slope of L? Perpendicular. Others? Sir Logan's answer, 1/2. Lily, 1/2. Sinaves, Carlos, Calleja, Calderon. Majority wins ba? Hindi. Tama naman yun. Ano? 1/2. So, negative reciprocal. So, -2 yan. So, flip yung -2/1. Change sign. 1/2. Okay, the perpendicular to. Number 3. X-intercept. Ito lang. L2, syempre ang hinahanap natin. Okay, to get the x-intercept, listen, just set the other variables. So, kung x-intercept yung hinahanap mo, yung y yung isi-zero mo. Kapag y-intercept ang hinahanap, yung x naman yung isi-zero mo. And this is the equation of L2. Kaya, if you want the x-intercept, you set y to 0. Okay? So the x-intercept is 2. Similarly, for the y-intercept, you set x to 0. X to 0, ano? So 2 times 0 plus y equals 4. Get y equals 4. Lang. Question on the intercepts? So we're going to find the midpoint of that. The two intercepts. Paano natin hahanapin? Midpoint. Call it M. How do we get the midpoint? Anyone? Suggestion. Oh, ano yung midpoint formula natin? Yes. Pero bigyan mo lang ng coordinates yung dalawang points. Kailangan tama kung nasaan yung zero niya. So for this one, 2, 0. For this one, 0, 4. Then midpoint formula, so 1, 2. Okay, for number 5, so we have the midpoint 1, 2. And finally, we can write down the equation in point slope form. So yung slope niya ay 1/2. Ito yung kailangan natin, 1/2. Tsaka ito. Y minus 2 equals 1/2 quantity x minus 1. Verify. So that's 1/2 x minus 1/2 plus 2. Right. One of you gave her answer is correct. So next, let me discuss this one. Right. So read muna tayo, no? Points -8, -16, 0, 10, 12, 14 are three vertices of a parallelogram. Find the coordinates of the fourth vertex if it is located in the third quadrant. Let's plot the points. Okay, should have cut and paste a coordinate or a graphing something, o yung pwede na lang i-cut and paste. Sige, manual na lang natin. Okay, here are the points, -8, -16. So 4, 8 natin. Then -4, -8, -12, -16. Here is 1 point. 0, 10, 4, 8, 12. So dito. And 12, 14. 4, 8, 12, 16. 4, 8, 12, 16. So 12, 4, 8, 12, and then 14. 4, 8. Are you listening? Are you here, class? So -8, -16, 0, 10, 12, 14. And the most natural point that would seem to fit the all the points together so that they form a parallelogram would seem to be the one located in the fourth quadrant, right? Parang madaling, yun yung obvious na nakikita ng mata. And by the way, what's a parallelogram? Anyone? What's a parallelogram? Parallelogram, meron ba? Parallelogram. Quadrilateral with only one parallel side. Here. Kailangan opposite sides are parallel para maging parallelogram. A question, is a square a parallelogram? Yes. Is a rhombus a parallelogram? Rhombus. Yes. Is a rhombus a square? Yes, not always. Is a square a rhombus? Ano ba ang rhombus? All four sides equal. Tama? Ito, parallelogram nito, hindi necessary na equal yung lahat ng sides. Ito, equal. tsaka ito sa dito. Pero sa rhombus, parallelogram din siya pero lahat equal. So a square is a rhombus. It's also a parallelogram. Is a rectangle a parallelogram? Right? Is a rectangle a square? Is a square a rectangle? Is a parallelogram a quadrilateral? Yes, that's the most general term, right, for a four-sided figure. Quadrilateral. As a quadrilateral, it has four sides. But it's neither a square, nor a rhombus, nor a rectangle. It's just a quadrilateral, a general quadrilateral. Now that you know what a parallelogram is, so kailangan lang yung magtatapatan, pareho ng sukat. So, saka dito at ito. But we are told that it's located in the third quadrant. Saan yung third quadrant? Ito yung quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. So dito siya. How do we draw it? Relative to -8, -16. Nasa northwest ba? Northeast, southeast? Then, ng -8, -16? Southeast, southwest, southeast, southwest, correct. Southwest. So, approximate ko lang saan siya posibleng naroroon. Ganyan siya dapat. There. Now, let's locate the point. Any ideas? Okay, I will present only two solutions. Actually, there's a third. We can maybe discuss yan. The more elegant one first, then the less elegant, but the more practical one, the faster one. So gagamit tayo ng midpoint. Midpoint formula. Paano gagamitin yung midpoint formula? There's this property of parallelograms that their diagonals, what? What do they do to each other? If you have a parallelogram, their diagonals, yes, correct, Mr. Logan, bisect each other. So what's a diagonal? From one vertex to an opposite vertex or to another vertex. Actually, kung 5 yan, maraming diagonal. Isa diagonal, diagonal, diagonal. Pero dahil 4, opposite vertex na siya. And they bisect each other. So this is divided into 2 equal parts. So also is this diagonal divided into 2 equal parts. That's not true for a quadrilateral in general. So if you draw the diagonals of a quadrilateral, they do not necessarily bisect each other. Hindi sila nag-bisect. Hindi equal. But for a parallelogram, whether it's a square, a rectangle, or a rhombus, as long as it's a parallelogram, the diagonals will bisect each other. How will that help? Kung bisect, so midpoint yun. Midpoint, midpoint. Let's draw the diagonal of this parallelogram. The diagonals. Yan. So they bisect each other. How will that help? Using the midpoint formula. Makukuha ba natin yung bisection nila or yung intersection ng bisectors? Pwede, di ba? Using which points? So the diagonals are AC and BD. Which diagonal can give us the intersection point? Yes, diagonal AC, di ba? Kasi given na, hindi kagaya ni BD, wala si D. Yun ang hinahanap natin si D. So first, let's use AC to get the intersection. So using the midpoint formula, 0, 10, negative 8, negative 16, 0 plus negative 8 over 2, 10 plus negative 16 over 2. So we get the midpoint of AC to be negative 4, 10 minus negative 3. Baba, negative 4, negative 3. Now, how will that help us? So we got the midpoint. How will that help us get the other point? We did a problem like this. Diba? You use the midpoint formula in reverse. So we are given, remember, the midpoint now and an endpoint. So we are going to find the other endpoint. Remember the problem? Pero syempre, hindi agad natin kinuha ito. Hindi ko given. Kinuha natin using the AC, the diagonal AC. If we redraw here, E is unknown. The midpoint is given, was derived rather. Remember, we apply the midpoint formula in reverse. So x plus 12 over 2. Check nyo na lang ulit yung problem na yon. And dapat equal yun sa midpoint, sa coordinate ng midpoint, no? X coordinate. And then y plus 14 over 2 should equal negative 3. If you solve for x, we'll get negative 20, negative 20. Problem solved. Okay? Do you have any question? So, apply the midpoint formula twice. One, directly. Second, indirectly. Kuha natin yung approach. Negative, tama. Negative 20, negative 20. Negative 6 minus 14. Okay, you're looking at this. About 12, 14 yun eh. Okay, so let's do this another way, the easier way. Di lang ganun arte kumbaga elegant. So slope, rise over run. Paano siya makukuha using rise over run? You want to go from, say, A to D, di ba? Pwede rin C to D, pero doon na lang tayo sa A to D. Pababa tayo. Paano kung kukunin? Susukatin yung pagbaba, tsaka kaliwa kanan, ganyan. You have to go several units vertically and several units horizontally. Yes, compare, right? Compare with BC. Same, dapat. The number of units should be the same. from B to C, from A to D as from B to C, tama? Because of this being a parallelogram. Parallelogram kasi yan. So you count this. Ilan yan? Ilan yan? Ito. Tignan nyo lang yung y coordinates. Ilan yan? Subtract, right? 30, yes. Negative 16. 14 minus negative 16. Or negative 16 minus 14, absolute value, 30. So 30 units down, negative. Okay, pababa tayo, no, from B to C. And then to the left na siya. Ano lang yan? Simple arithmetic. From 12 to negative 8, ilan yan? 20, right. Pero negative, no, kasi pakaliwa or to the left na lang. So you do the same. Ito yung A, pinanggalingan niya, 0, 10. So bababa ka. Pag X kasi horizontal, di ba? So yung horizontal mo, negative 20. Yung vertical mo, yun yung Y. Pareho din makukuha. Negative 20, pag inad mo yan, negative 20, negative 20. Right? So, any questions so far? Okay, let's do this one. Last one here. All right, I did an item exactly like this in the previous session just a while ago. I will upload that later. It makes use of systems of equations. I want you to compare the method there to the method that we will be using here. So parang magsisystem pa rin tayo kahit papaano dito, no? But let me explain the problem. The radius of the circle, you're looking for a circle here whose radius is 2 and passing through those 2 points. So the points are 1, 2, 3, 4. The radius is 2. Enter. Okay, the radius is 2. Now, in the previous method, what we did was set up a system by calculating using the distance formula, the distances there, and equating to 2. Panoorin nyo na lang yun. But here, we will use a different approach. One that makes use of a geometric, what do you call this, theorem, okay, which states that the chord of a circle, which joins 2 points on the circle, is always, okay, perpendicular, or the radius, how do we say this accurately drawn? Okay. Yan, naalala ko na. So, nalito ako ah. So, ito, if you have a circle and you draw any chord of the circle and you draw the perpendicular bisector of the circle, where will it pass? Where will it pass? The center, yes, always. Let me state that. The perpendicular or A, dahil marami yan, a perpendicular bisector of any chord of a circle passes through the center of the circle. Okay, jot that down. A perpendicular bisector of any chord of a circle passes through its center. And we will use that fact here. So what I do is draw a chord. Yun na nga, yung kanina, this chord here. And draw its perpendicular bisector. So it bisects the line segment and is perpendicular to the line segment, and it will pass through the center. Okay? So how will that help? So what we do is find the equation of the perpendicular bisector L here. Hanapin natin siya. Okay? Alam niyo na ito gawin. Pinag-aralan natin kanina lang. Kukunin natin yung midpoint ng AB. So midpoint, just do the math. 3 plus 1 divided by 2. 4 plus 2 divided by 2. That's M. Okay? And then, we get the slope of the perpendicular using AB. The slope of AB, so do the math, 4 minus 2 to 3 minus 1, 2, so 1. So yung slope ng perpendicular is negative 1. Negative reciprocal, di ba? Hello? So ang ginagawa ko lang dito, alam nyo na, kinukuha ko lang yung perpendicular bisector ng AB, yung chord. At alam natin, yung center dumadaan doon or yung line dumadaan sa center. So what does that mean? It satisfies the equation of the line. So kukunin muna natin yung equation ng line, y minus y1, ito yung x1, y1. Ito yung slope. So plus 2 plus 3. Which tells us that the center is on this line and thus will satisfy its equation, di ba? HK. K equals negative h plus 5. Yeah. And then what's next? Anyone? Nakuha ko na to. So ito ang ginawa lang natin, step 1. Perpendicular bisector. Yun lang. Okay? Hinanap natin yung equation ng perpendicular bisector. And then, ginamit natin yung equation niya para i-relate yung center, yung coordinates ng center. Nakuha natin. Ito yung relation ng coordinates ng center. So, yan yung step 1. Yun lang yun. No? So, medyo kalimutan nyo yung nangyari. So, basta, ang ginawa lang natin, ni-relate yung H and T. Next. Ang gagawin natin ngayon. Hanapin natin, gamitin natin yung isa pang given. Radius is 2. How will that help? Radius is 2. I-draw natin dito. Radius is 2. So, that means, pwede kong gamitin either point to set up an equation. Ang maganda dito, walang system na mangyayari. Yes, distance formula, HK. Halos walang system na kakailanganin because we got K, tama ba, to be negative H plus 5 from step 1. Yan. Then since the radius is 2, gamitin natin si 1, 2. Magdi-distance formula tayo. Distance formula. Ito yung mangyayari. Square root H minus 1 squared, and then ito. Negative H plus 5 minus 2 squared. And then radius is 2. Ayan. Then square both sides. Square mo yan. Magiging equal to 4 yung right hand side. Then mawawala yung radical dito. Ayan. And you have a quadratic equation in B. Can be solved. Divide by 2. Nagsosolve na lang ako . So we just solve for H. Pag finactor out ito, you have 2 possible values for H. Actually, may dalawang location possible yung center. Okay? Paano nangyari? Step 1, hinanap natin yung perpendicular bisector to relate H and K. And then step 2, nag-set up tayo ng equation that will allow us to solve for H or K. So, ganun lang, no? Hinanap natin si L, yung equation ni L, and then nag-set up tayo para makuha yung isa sa coordinates ng center, si H. Okay? Dito nakuha natin si negative H plus 5. Dito nakuha natin 1. So, kunin natin si K using the relationship there already. No? K equals negative H plus 5. So, if H is 1, plug in mo na lang dito. So, negative 1 plus 5. 4. If H is 3, plug in case. So, may dalawang centers na possible, no? So, yung isa, pwedeng nasa 1, 4, the other at 3, 2. Kasi, di ba, from the way it is drawn, posible naman . So, kung makaset up ka ng isang center, i-reflect mo lang yan or gawin mo symmetrical, no, sa kabila. May isa kang circle pa na posibleng mag-satisfy ng condition na yan. At yun na nga, 1, 4, 3, 2 yung natin. How is K equals negative H plus 5 again? Review the video. Kinuha natin yung perpendicular bisector. Pag nakuha mo yung perpendicular bisector na yan, lalabas y equals negative x plus 5. Yung HK nandun sa L. So it satisfies the equation of L. So yung K is the y, H is the x. Pero syempre, yung pagkuha ng perpendicular bisector, dapat alam mo. Basta yun nga, inanap natin yung L. So the more important thing here is for you to see what was done to be able to like divide into several steps the solution to the problem. Pag tinignan mo yung details, malilito ka. Pero pag tinignan mo muna yung pinaka outline ng solution, madali naman palang maintindihan. Matrabaho lang, kumbaga, yung problem. Actually, may problem doon na 3 points ng circle binigay. Pwede kang mag-system in 3 equations, 3 unknowns, mahirap yun, di ba? Pero ang technique dyan, gamitin mo yon twice. No, yung perpendicular bisector of any chord of a circle passes through the center. Pakita ko nga kung saan yung problem na yun. Ayan, tapos may L1 ka, may L2 ka. Kukunin mo ngayon yung intersection ng dalawang lines, no? Parang matrabaho. Pakita ko nga yung problem na yun. Doon yun sa binigay ko na exercises, I believe. Pinakasama yung parabolas. Ito. Ah. You're given 3 points on the circle. Ano? Paano mong kukunin ngayon yung center at radius? So, gamitin mo yung theorem kanina. Chord, the perpendicular bisector of any chord of a circle passes through the center. Draw another chord. Ayan, perpendicular bisector. Pag nakuha mo yung equation ni L1 at ni L2, intersection nila yung center. Magsisystem ka. Kaya, nakuha ba yung idea, no? Dalawang perpendicular bisector, parehong dumataan sa center. So, yung intersection ng dalawa, yung center. So, magsisystem ka. Now, if you need any help with the problem, you may set up a consultation. Pero wala mo nang lalabas na ganito naman sa quiz, no? Graphs of midterms. Hindi ko kayo tinatakot, huwag matakot. I'm sure na itong math na to walang babagsak. Okay? Madali tayong, hindi naman mahirap maka-A dito ngayon. Lalo na yung iba sa inyo, perfect score kayo sa quiz, no? Quiz number 1. So yung quizzes, hindi ganun kahirap talaga. Multiple choice lang yan usually, fill in the blanks. Kung ma-perfect mo yan, may 100 ka na. So quiz on Monday, ganun pa rin, 1 to 8, 80 minutes, pero may 8 questions yon. So, wala sanang magsasabi pa ng excuse bakit hindi nakakuha, ang haba na nung ano. Tapos asynchronous. So that's it for today. Kung walang tanong or magpapakonsult, I'll be ending the meeting.
Sir, may I consult later? In a while.
Oh yeah, sure. Ngayon na. Wait now. Others may want to join. So
may I share my screen?
Okay, I'll allow.
Wait. I think only the host can share.
I'll allow participants to share screen. Time ulit.
Wait. I think you're still sharing screen.
Kala ko host dapat. You try now? Sir Galano?
Oh wait. Mm.
Exercise ba yan?
Yes, sir.
Can you state the problem? Hindi mo siya maano. Ano na lang natin. Ayan.
Sir, can you see it?
Kasosolve lang kanina niyan, ha?
Which one?
Yan. Yung nasa screen mo.
Yes, sir.
Ayan ba yan o iba pa?
That's it, sir.
Okay. If it was discussed in class, I usually don't. Kasi may video yan eh. Naka-record siya. Ngayon, you watch the video again. Kung hindi pa rin maintindihan, may part na hindi ka maintindihan, then, set up a consultation with me. O kung
Okay,
may
sir.
iba ka pa ngayon, do you have other items in mind?
So this one was answered
Yes,
in the
oo,
other
kanina
video.
lang.
Okay.
Kanina,
Thank you, sir.
sorry pala, nandito tuloy ako. Sa kaninang section.
Okay. Thank you,
I-upload ko
sir.
yun mamaya. Pag medyo malabo sa'yo, sabihan mo lang ako.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Others? Yes, Mr. Logan? Itanong si Mr. Logan. Raise yung kamay mo. Hindi, sorry. Akin
Wala
pala
po,
yun.
sir.
Sorry, kamay pala nito ng cursor. Okay, hindi cursor, hand na yung ano. Others, may tanong? I guess wala, no? Okay, I'll be ending the meeting.
Thank you, sir.